Sasha Titianko, and I'm here to represent Sensorium Corp, an innovative tech company, a Web3 company, and our core product that we develop is Sensorium Galaxy Metaverse, which is considered to be a leading metaverse that stands on the intersection of art and latest tech solutions in the fields of artificial intelligence, blockchain, virtual reality, and augmented reality. And basically, we are working on creating new forms of entertainment with different virtual worlds, thematic hubs. The first virtual world that we are launching now is called Prism. It's dedicated to music, immersive virtual experiences. And for this one, we partnered up with some of the leading electronic music artists on this planet, such as David Guetta, Armin van Buuren, Steve Aoki, and Carl Cox. Other content hubs within Sensorium Galaxy are dedicated to other practices, for example, from play to earn mechanics or even meditations. So it's very versatile, has many components, and of course, since we are Web3 and blockchain stands as one of the pillars of the company and what we do.
So I'm going to first take a very backwards approach to this conversation. I want to take us back. And if we say metaverse, if I asked you that 2 years ago, your definition would have been different. All three of you would have been. And what it's going to be a year from now. Define it right now. What is the metaverse? What's real? Not what it's going to be. What is it today? You want to take a stab at that?
Sure. I think the first thing that we need to embrace is the metaverse is not a new term. The word metaverse is something that has been coined in the early 90s in a book called Snow Crash. At the time, it was a science fiction novel where they were talking about this utopian world that is called the metaverse, right? Which is a virtual reality world. I won't even go to attempt to try and define it, because if you ask 10 leaders, if you ask 10 leading companies, they will give you 10 different answers, right? And that is just a sign of one thing. This is a nascent space, right? So anyone that sits in front of you and says he's an expert in the metaverse, come see me, right? Because this is as early as it gets. We're all still learning. There's a lot of good thought leadership out there. Education is key, but also to answer your question, I think one element of the metaverse is definitely a virtual reality where you can interact with multiple players. The second element of the metaverse is that it is a digital place where you can own digital elements. And today, in today's version of the metaverse, we think about the metaverse being something driven by blockchain. Also, unfortunately, incorrect. Some metaverses are driven by blockchain and allow you to own what you have in the metaverse. And essentially, has anyone seen the movie Player One, Ready Player One?
Of course.
Right. That's the metaverse, right? So I'll leave it at that.
Agree with that? Do you agree Ready Player One is a good definition of the metaverse?
I agree to that, but I believe that we are in the time which is like 1990s of internet. So TCP/IP protocol was being built up, domains and hosting was not self-manageable. A lot of resellers creating a website was also a big challenge. So I believe that we are much ahead of its time, and upcoming challenges of metaverse is something that we should discuss.
Where do you want to define it? How do you want to define it?
Well, I'd like to add that we started to build Sensorium Galaxy Metaverse back in 2019. So it was much before it became such a buzzword that it is now. And we are now in the world where almost any project with a number of features can start calling themselves a metaverse. Yes, because there is no fixed definition of that. This is something that's forming with our help and in front of our eyes today. Yeah.
So if I have bad credit in the United States, bad credit, if I come to Dubai, they will eventually find out that I have bad credit in the United States, and they would not probably give me a good credit line here. So my credit follows me, okay? Even though I use a social security number in the States, a different identity here, identifier here. In the metaverse, if I go from one world to another, there's nothing there to identify me, to move me through the system. Or is there? Is there something being developed? So if I have a bad character in one metaverse, does that follow me somewhere else? Or am I just a different personality everywhere I go?
You're putting your finger on something really important here, and it's the ethical considerations that we need to take when we think about the metaverse. Because we're creating that new layer of data where new data can be harnessed. And most of the time, if we look at technology today, data hasn't been really used to our advantage, but it's been used in a way to productize us. Now, I don't want to go down that route because that's a rather philosophical route, right? But the matter of the fact is, if we look at metaverses today, very little of them actually think about interoperability on the beginning, right? Everyone is, and that's, again, it's normal because we're at this height of inflated expectations, right? So there's something called the Gartner's hype cycle. They now started issuing it for blockchain technologies, right? The first level of it is the height of inflated expectations, right? And that is where we are with the metaverse today. So a lot of what you hear is being hyped. What follows the height of inflated expectations? It's a thorough disillusion where everyone says this technology is useless, we shouldn't be using this, no one needs this technology. But after that, you arrive at the plateau of productivity. So blockchain, for example, was at the height of inflated expectation in 2017, right? Looking at it today, we have a room, entire hall that's filled up with blockchain companies building something. But to not lose the point too much, the metaverse today is a new world that we are building, a new data layer that we are building. Interoperability is key. Ethical considerations are key. Data protection is key. Protecting our identity in a way that is useful to us is key.
I love that you realize, or you're telling us there's a lot of hype behind it. And that's one of the biggest problems, right?
Yeah.
Because then as an investor, you're really feeling great about that hype, but you're finding out it doesn't have a lot of foundation, does it?
Yeah.
It's a challenge. Do you ride the hype? Is the hype important to you?
Hype in terms of project marketing is something that is definitely there. I always say hype versus hypocrisy. So certain times you see people are creating hype for the project, which might be good for marketing, but there are a lot of hypocrisy going upon the transition of projects. So all of a sudden, a lot of ICOs, IOs, and serial project creators have jumped from dumping their previous commitment to the industries or the roadmaps and other things they had to follow. And hypothetically, they are now raising money again in the name of Metaverse. I prefer that by honoring those previous commitment, if they can maintain the hype, that would be really great.
Now, I realize that we're here to talk about regulation, but I think it's more than that, okay? Let's talk about constructs. Because I want to think about Coldplay, the band, okay? Coldplay did something in the metaverse, and they ended up making a ton of money on doing one metaverse concert. And all of a sudden, they're going, well, wait a second. Do we travel and go to concert venues and do the whole process of doing that, or do we do more metaverse focus? As an artist, which one are they looking at? Are they looking at that connection with the real audience or the metaverse audience? Which one's more important?
Well, this is something that we've been really deep into for the whole course of the creation of our metaverse, because it's so much relies on the collaborations with the artists as one of these pillars. And first, all this streaming started in the pandemic, especially, yeah? But now the pandemic is over, but the artists now realize how it all works better. First of all, they understand that it's not a substitute, of course, for real life shows.
They feel that.
Yeah, they understand that. But at the same time, we see now that more and more artists are embracing, the whole metaverse concept right now. Still, of course, it's good to see that many of them still go after quality, because metaverse is a great term, but when you go and see precisely what metaverse can offer to an artist, in many cases, we see that the landscape, for example, of the metaverse that it can offer to the artist resembles you like blocky games of 2000s. And we want it to be real, we want it to be impressive, we want the artist avatar to be the AAA quality. And that's some of the things that we are working hard at Sensorium Galaxy, so that we provide to the artists to create their shows AAA graphics, that's their avatar is AAA quality as well. and that there are special mechanics that let them bring the audience closer and be available like 24/7.
She's so excited about what she's talking about because she's doing it and it sounds easy. It isn't easy, right? I mean, you're looking at so many companies right now over
Right.
Crypto Oasis. To make this happen, it's a very hard process, isn't it?
It is. Having said that, it's also being overcomplicated,
Oh, okay.
right? So the real challenges are never in technology. I say that as someone who's spent the majority of his life working in technology. Technology does what you need it to do. The problem that we have is that we get ahead of ourselves. We start building things before we understand the implication of it. Going back to your credit score example, let's look at how data has been used in the past, right? They did an experiment, an artificial intelligence, they put it in open source, they connected it to Twitter, right? It's one of the leading companies, I don't want to call out names, but you Google it and you'll find out about it. They connected that artificial intelligence that was built by PhDs and amazing people to Twitter. And the first tweet was, "Hi, I'm the AI, and I am here to interact with you." 2 hours later, this artificial intelligence was churning out hate speech and cursing people, and these people should die and these people should live. That is very scary, and that shows you the flaw in the basics. It's not the flaw in the people building it. It's the flaw in the basics. If we stop for a second and we say, hey, what does this actually mean? And what do we need to do to make sure that future generations are protected? We will start thinking about these things and implementing them. Unfortunately, we're so busy with, hey, raising another million, raising another 10 million, building another game, creating another gamify application, presenting something at a show, that we forget that the things that we are building have long-lasting effects. Today, the power of all of your data here in the room sits in a small area in Silicon Valley with somewhere around 5 or 6 companies. They pretty much own all of your data. You know, we use these free services. You use a free Facebook, you use a free Instagram. What you don't appreciate sometimes is that these services aren't free. They use your data, and that your data is monetized in ways that doesn't benefit you. The metaverse only accelerates that. So if we don't take these considerations very early on, we will quickly just recreate the issues that we've created in AI, and they are at maturity, and we see that AI is now biased. And we need to have ethical consideration for AI. If we don't implement ethical considerations in the metaverse, the same thing is going to happen.
So we're creating a platform that already has problems from the last platform. So
Exactly.
how do we create something that works great with artists, works great with kids, works great with business? We have to start from a blank slate. But we can't, can we?
We should.
But we can't.
Well, yeah. There should be, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a regulator, I'm someone that invests in businesses, builds businesses, helps businesses succeed. But from where I'm standing, it seems that there should be some form of association. And we've seen this before. We've seen this with the World Wide Web Association. We've seen this with OpenAI associations. We've seen this with regulatory bodies all around the world that came together and said, hey, there should be standards. We should abide by those standards. And these standards should include, as of today, no data should be used against someone. Your private data is your private data. Your behavioral data shouldn't be used against you to pitch you stuff. You own your data. And if you decide to sell your data, then that's your decision. That's fine. And you can reap the benefits of that. So there should be governing bodies of industry and public sector coming together to define these.
So let's be a little more, I don't want to say technical, but let's look at this decentralized world working with the metaverse. Can they work in tandem with one another? Do you feel they can?
Of course, and that's kind of a trend that we are obviously witnessing right now. Yeah, going from centralized markets to decentralized markets. Yeah, from centralized approaches to decentralized approaches. For example, now we see that in the Web3 economy, assets, the virtual assets that are created by game developers only and which are owned by them, it's kind of sort of a past thing, and we can say goodbye to it anymore. We have users providing content. We have new creators creating content on every second, basically, and we need to give them new means, to protect their data, to hold their data, to own their IP, to own their copyright, so be able to use it on the secondary markets as well, obviously. And I just wanted to add something to what you were mentioned. That of course nowadays the picture of our digital lives is really quite messy, and though it was all, it's not only Silicon Valley. Of course, we understand our data is kind of thrown all over the planet, all over the place, and it's even hard to track. Yeah, and we interact with dozens of different web services daily, leaving our data in so many various locations. And wouldn't it be simpler, if we could use a single access to interact with all platforms and services? And I'm mentioning this because one of the ideas that we are working around now at Sensorium Galaxy is what we called a self-sovereign identity, a technology which, in simple words, allows users to self-manage their digital identities without depending on any third-party intermediaries. And that's, we think, is very important. And so that they also can not rely, on any third party to store their
Haven't
data
we been
or to
talking
manage
about
it.
this for a decade?
We have.
I mean, this has
We
been
have,
going.
and it's good that you're looking at this. Oh, sorry. It's good that you're looking at this, right? But I want to do a quick check, and even with the panelists, how many of the people here have interacted with the metaverse? All right. Okay. Now,
What's that mean? What does that? Does that mean you're in VR headsets? Does that mean
like
you're
at
doing
least
augmented
felt it.
reality?
Right. At least felt it. Now, the next thing. How many of you have uploaded yourself into the metaverse? Right.
The
Now,
panels.
I did as well. My hand was up. And it only came to me afterwards. Because I signed, of course, the typical disclaimer that now I don't own my data anymore. It's in this metaverse.
We did it last year, actually.
We did it together,
right
didn't
here.
we? Yeah, right. Now, I'm sorry to be the morbid guy in the room, but I want to put this image in front of you. I now uploaded myself into the metaverse. Now, the good thing is I still own that data, but factually speaking, if you upload yourself tomorrow in a metaverse, you probably don't own that data. Let's assume that you pass away after a long and happy life. Who owns that image in the metaverse? Is it you? Most of the time it isn't. Now imagine how crazy it would be that your face would be used to market stuff to your children. It gives me chills just saying that, but this is the world and the legal frameworks we live in today. This is legal. Today, it would be legal for my face to be used if I upload myself to these kind of metaverses, that then in the future, my children will see the face and say, hey, buy this product. And this is the scary stuff that we need to make sure that it doesn't happen.
Right.
So there are other things like virtual stalking, virtual spying, and more serious crimes might come up. And with 4 cameras, with very micro, like many millicentimeter kind of accurate data being taken from the places, the rooms, and wherever you travel, which is not owned by us, there could be another challenge. But like he said, we are not from the regulator side. So what I believe is, during the internet time, there was a new world created that was application protocol interface API. So all metaverses should come with their own MPIs, which is metaverse protocol interface, which would be binded by their respective jurisdiction. When you jump from one jurisdiction, one metaverse to another metaverse, either it should be a self-regulated or some standardized regulation has to be there, so that at the time of transiting from one metaverse to another metaverse, you can at least understand that what happened with your decentralized identities. Because your avatar, your decentralized identity will be utilized at multiple places.
Let me ask a question real quick. Who here owns an Apple product? Raise your hand.
Not a single one.
Okay.
Not a single Apple product.
Apple product. You get right. Yeah, right. Do you think it's going to take Apple to really set what the standard is going to be moving forward?
No.
Will it take them to say this is what the metaverse is going to be?
Hard no.
Well,
Because
you're-
they've already not done a good job in what they do with our data, right? Apple's Apple supposedly doesn't have access to your fingerprint and to your biometric data and I don't know what. But then the other day something was hacked and then all of this data was leaked into the market. Do I trust a company like this to handle my data? Definitely.
I understand what you just said, but almost 90% of the audience had an Apple product. So if they say, hey, this is what augmented reality is going to look like, or what the glasses are, will they
And
create
they
the
will
standard?
come out with glasses. It's a matter of time, right? They will come out with glasses and they'll be the sexiest, nicest, sleekest design
won't
you've
buy.
ever seen. Yeah. And they'll right? They'll be the sexiest thing you'll ever seen and they'll be $5,000 because only special people can buy them. But at the same time, does that solve the actual problem? You know what? Yes, it solves the usability aspect.
Right, people would be using it now.
Right. But on the way, people forget that they should be protecting their data.
I know that, but our kids don't know that. And that's
It's our role to educate them.
I agree, but it's a huge problem,
Yeah.
right? And that is, they're going to be the ones that are going to jump into this metaverse world probably faster than every one of us.
Yeah.
And it's like candy to them. So how do we protect them? Because I don't know how. I have this problem. You have it. You have a third one on the way.
Yeah.
So how do we protect our children? Because they're the ones that are really the real metaverse users more than we will be. How do
Why
we
you want to
I would-
protect them?
I would
Why?
say that
Did
we,
you
Why
say
do I
why?
want to protect my children? Come on, man.
Why we want to protect
So
our children?
do we really believe that children are someone who can be
Heck,
protected?
yes.
Those, they are much smarter. The new age Gen Z is much smarter than everyone, and the real user of metaverse would be more Gen Zs rather than the existing people owning Apple and other things.
I buy into the notion
Yeah.
that they're smarter than all of us,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
I buy into that notion. But what they haven't done is being educated properly in not sharing their data, which is why, unfortunately, now you have young children finding themselves half naked somewhere on a website. I didn't need the metaverse for this to happen, right? It is a role of everyone in the room that cares about a child, not even if you have a child or if you don't have a child, to educate the future generations on this digital world that we live in. Call it the metaverse, call it the internet, call it TVs even, right? Call it whatever you may. We need to ensure that we have a responsibility now. We don't just need to treat them to make sure that they are educated and they're smart and that they're well protected and cared for. Each one of you and me included has a responsibility to educate our children into this digital world.
exactly, yeah, I would just want to say as a mom, of an 11-year-old, who goes into Roblox, go into different metaverses and starts to use that. Of course, we are responsible, and each developer, and provider of a product is responsible. And I think we just need to be proactive. We can only be proactive, with the situation when we have new stuff being developed, and delivered to the market on the everyday basis. And there are all categories of people there, not just kids there. We're all vulnerable,
I have
in
one word
this
for
or
both
that
of
way.
you. Teenagers. And it'll make sense when you have them.
Right.
I would like you to do real quick, in one sentence, the metaverse is what tomorrow, a year from now? What will the metaverse be in one sentence?
Unfortunately, as much as I would hope it's not, but I believe that the metaverse will be the largest data gathering engine ever created on human brain.
Metaverse will be what?
Metaverse and internet will coexist. Metaverse will be 3D version of internet. So those who have access to 5G and high-end devices will access metaverse. The fact is, 90% of the countries are not 5G ready, and I tried decentralized or sandbox or any metaverse, it is still on desktop. So it's not going on, mobile yet as of now.
It's a long sentence. One sentence, the metaverse will be what?
In a year.
In a year.
We'll be getting there.
We'll be getting there.
Yeah.
Done, right there.
Something like
Thank
this.
our panel for coming out here and talking about
Thank you for
where
joining.
that's going. Now, you don't want to leave, by the way. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Well done.
We have another. Oh, wait, we have to scram together.
Yeah, we should.